Hey everyone, so let's talk about a creator's paradise, the public domain. It's this incredible, vast universe of free-to-use content. But, and this is a big but, it's got some hidden traps that can really catch you off guard, especially if you're trying to sell your work. So, let's dive in.
Just look at what's out there. Places like the Library of Congress have these massive collections of photos, films, books, music, all of it just sitting there, free for you to use and reuse. It's an amazing resource that's practically begging for your creative touch.
And really, the possibilities are endless. You could write a screenplay based on an old novel like Moby Dick, or you could record your own version of an old folk song without paying a dime in royalties. Or you could use classic art in your own designs. Some of the biggest hits out there are really just clever remixes of public domain stuff. Think about it. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. They took a 19th century classic and bam, turned it into a modern bestseller. That's the kind of power we're talking about here.
Okay, so this brings us to a really important question, especially for those of you who are selling things on Etsy or eBay. Let's say you find this fantastic old photograph of a famous person. It's in the public domain, the copyright is long gone. Can you just slap that on a t-shirt and start selling it? Well, the answer is a little more complicated than you might think.
Right, and this is where we get to the real heart of the issue. Just because a work's copyright has expired, that doesn't mean you have a blank check to use it any way you want. Especially, and this is key, for commercial purposes. There are two other major legal hurdles that you absolutely need to know about.
The best way to think about it is like this. Copyright is just the first, outermost layer of legal protection on a creative work. When that layer peels away over time, there could still be other layers underneath that you have to deal with. And trust me, ignoring those other layers can get you into some serious hot water. So the first hidden trap is something called the right of publicity. Now, this law isn't about protecting the photograph itself. It's all about protecting the person in the photograph. It gives every individual control over how their name, their face, their likeness, their whole identity really, is used to make money.
This chart breaks it down perfectly. On one hand, you have copyright. It protects the creative work, the photo itself, and it's designed to expire eventually. But on the other hand, you have the right of publicity. That protects the person's identity. And that right can last for their entire life, and in a lot of states for decades after they've died. So here's the bottom line. The photo's copyright can be totally gone, but the person's publicity rights can still be very much alive and kicking.
And that brings us to our second big trap, trademarks. Let's use the most famous example on the planet. The original 1928 black and white version of Mickey Mouse from that classic Steamboat Willie cartoon. That character is now in the public domain. The copyright on that specific film and that specific drawing has expired.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, Disney still holds an incredibly powerful trademark on the name Mickey Mouse and the character's image as an identifier of the Disney brand. So while you could maybe use a clip from Steamboat Willie, you can't just go and put Mickey on a lunchbox and start selling it. Why not? Because that would make people think it's an official Disney product, and that's trademark infringement, plain and simple.
Okay, so we've got these two big legal traps, right of publicity and trademark. So how do you know if you're about to step in one? Well, the key is understanding the line between different kinds of use, specifically the line between what's called editorial use and merchandise use.
This quote really says it all. The big danger zone, the place you have to be extra careful, is when you're using something for commercial advertising or on merchandise. That's exactly where those other legal layers, the ones beyond copyright, really start to matter. This slide lays out the difference so clearly. Using a public domain image in, say, a documentary or a news report to inform people, that's generally much safer. That's editorial use, and it's often protected by free speech. But the second you take that exact same image and put it on a product you're selling, a t-shirt, a mug, a poster, it becomes commercial use. Now you're not just informing, you're suggesting that the person in the photo is endorsing your product, and that can violate their publicity or trademark rights.
So if you're a creator selling your stuff online, this slide is basically your warning, be careful here list. If you're using a public domain image in an ad for your product, on the packaging, or directly on the merchandise like a t-shirt or a calendar, you have to stop and think beyond just the copyright.
So with all that said, how do you stay safe? Look, the goal here isn't to scare you away from using the public domain, it's to help you be smart about it. So here's a simple little checklist you can run through. It's just a 3-step check. Step 1, do your homework. Make absolutely sure the work is actually truly in the public domain. Step 2, look closely at the image. Is there a recognizable person in it? If the answer is yes, you have to think about their publicity rights. And step 3. Does the image contain a famous character, a logo, or a brand name? If it does, you're wandering into trademark territory.
And this chart gives you a pretty great rule of thumb for that second step. An image of Abraham Lincoln? Yeah, you're probably fine. He died well over a century ago. But what about a celebrity who passed away, say, 20 or 30 years ago? Uh-oh, that's a potential problem, because their estate likely still controls their publicity rights. And a living person, that's a definite no-go. You absolutely need to get their permission first.
So, if you only remember one single thing from all of this, please make it this right here. The term public domain means the copyright barrier is gone. It does not mean you automatically get a free pass on trademark or publicity rights. Those are totally separate challenges you have to navigate on your own.
Look, the public domain is an amazing starting point. It's a key that unlocks one very important door for creators. But as we've just seen, it's not the only door in the hallway. So for your next project, when you find that perfect public domain image, just ask yourself, what other doors, like publicity and trademarks, do I need to check before I walk through?